In small towns, the silence can be deadly. One phone call can change a cop's life forever. One night, when they called me, I thought it was just another normal call. But when I arrived, I found myself facing a nightmare that would haunt me for the rest of my life. When you're a cop in a small town, every call from work makes your heart race. Sometimes they're little calls. Someone keyed someone's car. Someone broke a window. Someone shoplifted a quart of milk or ripped a few Huggies out of the box. Janine Collins ran a red light and almost hit Angela Brennan, which would have been a big deal if her brakes weren't faulty and she weren't sober. Those little calls make up most of the year, and you're glad they do, because the big calls are so bad you talk about them for years afterwards. A fire at Mrs. Branzino's takes out half the house and burns her legs something awful. You went to school with her kids, and your kids go to school with her grandkids. Her son Mike asked you to prom, and you said no, and when he sees what happened to his mother, he passes out and hits his head, and he's in the hospital for a week afterwards. She recovers better than he does. Nick Rodriguez, only 15, with his whole life and the whole world ahead of him. No one saw it coming because he was an honor roll student and on the football team and outwardly happy. Sometimes you're having a good day, and then you see a kid that looks a little bit like him, and then suddenly you see him in his room, like you found him, and for some reason you get stuck on the fact that he was barefoot but only wearing one sock. You wonder for days on end where that other sock was. Yesterday, I got a big call, the biggest yet. I can feel it spreading already, heavy in the air and hollow. Already it's swallowing conversations and people and days, weeks, months, years. I was at the movies with Chris, my youngest. Something about robots. He had already seen it twice, once with friends, the second time with his father and older sister. But he said he wanted to see it again with me. I didn't mind, even if I don't get science fiction movies. I was just glad he wanted to hang out with me. I got the call in the middle of what I assume was the big showdown at the end, a confusing light show that made my eyes water, and was so loud I felt the phone and didn't hear it. I didn't hear what Monica was saying either. So I stood and shuffled awkwardly around people's feet and out into the hall. "What did you say?" I asked. "It's Becca Campbell," Monica said. Only in a small town would she say Becca instead of Rebecca. Only in a small town would I know who she was talking about instantly, what she looked like, where she lived, how young she was, how innocent. "How bad is it?" I asked, even if I already knew it was bad. No one starts a call with "it's" and then a person's name unless something really bad happened to them. "It's bad," Monica said. I remembered then that Monica's girl played volleyball with Becca. "Is she at the house?" "Yes," Monica said. "Her parents found her outside. It's her boyfriend too, Anna. They found him in the backyard." "I'm on my way," I said. "Tell Jordan to keep Paul and Nicole outside, if he can. Don't let them touch anything. Tell them to cordon the area off too. No cell phones or pictures or goddamn TikToks." I turned around, ready to drag Chris out of his seat, but I found he had followed me into the hallway, a worried look on his face, and more than a little curiosity in his eyes. His mom's a cop. He knows when something bad's happening, and he can't resist its pull. "I have to drop you off at your father's," I said. "Where's Vivi?" Chris shrugged and made a face, like I'd just asked him about the whereabouts of the lost city of Atlantis instead of his older sister. "Someone died," Chris said. A statement, not a question. I'm not sure yet. But I was, and judging by Monica's voice, it wasn't just bad, but weird. Bad murders get better after a while. If a husband kills his wife, the town's possessed by the spirit of true crime excitement for a few weeks, maybe a year. Then something worse happens, somewhere else, and things die down. But weird murders are something else entirely. The weirder they are, the longer they live on, the stronger the fervor is. There are a lot of towns in America that never get away from a weird murder. They become it. I dropped Chris off at Evergreen Hills Condominium, the nicest suburb on the nice part of town. I hate it because I have to hand my ID to the guard at the gate, and he calls my ex-husband and asks if I can drive into his little gated slice of paradise. He must love that, must love hearing my name on the phone and knowing that he could turn me away. But he didn't, not tonight. He let me through and let me drive up to his house and drop our son off outside. He opened the door for Chris, ruffled his hair, kissed him on the forehead, and pulled him in for a big hug. He never even looked up at my car. I didn't mind, not that night. I had somewhere to be. Luckily, the Campbells lived on the nice side of town too, just a few minutes away from Evergreen Hills. They didn't live in a gated community. Instead, their home sat on the edge of the hill like a white spaceship with floor-to-ceiling windows and wooden decks and an infinity pool. On most nights, I'd envy that home and the people in it. Not yesterday, not when the nice driveway was clogged with half of the patrol cars at the station, 3 ambulances, and one of the town's only fire engines. What the hell happened? Nicole Campbell was on a stretcher, her face puffy and covered in tears, her blouse covered in vomit, an oxygen mask over her nose and mouth. Paul Campbell wasn't on a stretcher, but he was sitting on the curb with his head in his hands and a horrible look on his face. He met my gaze far and waved, a polite smile grazing his lips for a moment before his mouth slumped open again and his eyes went distant. Jordan ran up to me, his deputy shirt still a few sizes too big on his skinny frame. It had been a year, and we still couldn't want that fit. Jordan started. Just lead the way, I said, and I immediately saw why he had hesitated. There was no way to be led to. Becca was right there, hanging from a tree in the Campbell's front lawn with a noose around her neck, a landline phone in her hand, and her guts hanging out of wide horizontal gash that split her stomach from one side to the other. One of her intestines draped out of the cut like a streamer, dangling between her legs and pooling on the ground. For some reason, my first thought was that it looked fake, like a Halloween decoration or something out of a movie. Jordan said. I nodded and followed him through the house. There'd been some kind of fire. My eyes watered, and the house still reeked of smoke. We walked through the empty frame of a shattered sliding glass door, sidestepping the lawn chair that had been thrown through it. Becca's boyfriend, Dylan, was sitting outside, his wrists duct taped to the arms of a plastic chair. His ankles were duct taped together. A few layers of duct tape covered his mouth. He was wearing a Letterman jacket, and his guts were hanging out of a massive wound on his stomach, some of them pulled out onto his lap. Dylan doesn't play football, I said. Didn't, I thought, and it was true. He wasn't on the team, so why was he wearing that jacket? Jordan gagged, turned, and groaned as a string of vomit shot out of his mouth. 2 murders, I thought. Bad ones, weird ones, theatrical. There was a fire inside? I asked. Jordan nodded, then shook his head. Stove, he croaked. She was cooking something on a pan. Weird. Weird how? I asked, then walked back inside before he could answer me. I found it in the sink, a giant ball of tin foil on a pan that had been charred to a crisp. It looked vaguely familiar, old, nostalgic. I looked around the Campbell's $1 million kitchen, and then I found it, a cardboard label. Jiffy Pop, some kind of popcorn that comes in an aluminum foil dish with a handle. You cook it right on the stove. We left the scene at 4 a.m., and I got home at 6, practically crawling up the cramped stairs to my shitty studio apartment. I unlocked the door, tossed my work bag on the couch, and someone screamed in response. I flipped the lights on, my hand shooting to the gun on my hip. Jesus, Mom, Vivi groaned. She was sleeping on the couch, still in her school clothes. When she was little, I loved the fact that Vivian looked like me, with her curly dark hair and dark eyes and brown skin. Now, I hate the fact that she looked like me with the dark circles under her eyes, disheveled hair, and wrinkled clothes, unfocused, disorganized, mind anywhere but on her schoolwork. A lot of that is my fault, of course. You could have told me you were sleeping over. I called you 1,000,000 times, I said, and I had. I'd been calling even before I heard about Becca Campbell. Vivi started. Your phone died? I said. Sure, you heard about Becca Campbell, yeah, Vivi said. She's actually why I'm here. I raised an eyebrow. Vivi raised the remote, turned the TV on, and clicked her way through Netflix until she found something she'd been watching before. It was the movie Scream. I'd seen it years ago with her. She loved horror movies since she was 10. I don't want to watch a movie, I said. You do, Vivi said. Trust me. She scrolled her way through the film's opening, the movie becoming a series of still images while a red bar moved along the bottom of the screen. I saw a young Drew Barrymore with a terrible blonde wig making popcorn on the stove. Vivi kept scrolling. Drew Barrymore was on the phone, talking, more talking. Then she was scared, running, checking the locks on the doors, going to the back door, a sliding glass door. She flipped the lights on, and a boy in a Letterman jacket, duct taped to a chair in the backyard. Vivi scrolled along, and then the boy was dead, his guts hanging out of his open stomach. Vivi scrolled more and more, and then, holy shit, I said. Yeah, Vivi said, freezing the image on the screen. I reached for my phone, turning to look at the screen one more time. Drew Barrymore was dead, hanging from a tree in her front yard with a noose around her neck, a landline phone in one hand, and her guts hanging out from an open wound in her stomach. It was the same, exactly the same. I unlocked my phone and there was a message notification, a voice recording. I tapped it, then put the phone to my ear. Hello, Sheriff Rios, a deep voice said. Do you like scary movies? I do. 7 movies, 7 bodies, 7 days. I'll post an update tomorrow. I bet someone will tell me that I can't share the details of this case here, but being sheriff means I can do it, and then worry about the consequences later. This case is too bad, too weird to keep to myself.